10.
Kill la Kill at the start seemed way overhyped to me personally, especially with the follow-up with the episodes of Battle and the annoying bitch that I want to set on fire. However, as we dive deeper into the show and get more exposure of the four generals and their backstory, the show really takes off. The battles, in my honest opinion, matched the same excitement or even more than what I had received from Attack on Titan. All in all, if you want some over-the-top action with some killer OST, then Kill la Kill is the way to go. Just not for fanservice, seriously.
9.
Golden Time felt like a breath of fresh air of a romance setting taking place at college. After watching many high school rom-coms, it's great to get a light on a different perspective this time round. I especially like how they play on the main character's amnesia as another character, making his past self his worst enemy from moving forward with his life. That slow on the show opened up many cliffhangers and shocks coming up ahead.
8.
Log Horizon. The opening of this show is the most catchiest one of this year. I dare you to deny the awesomeness of this opening. Like most people, I had my fingers crossed for a good MMO adaptation after the disaster that struck with Sword Art Online. Surprisingly, it sufficed to please me, even though we had that somewhat slow development of establishing all the kinks of how everything works. But I do have a huge interest of what's to come after being introduced to all the characters, guilds, and all that shebang. Here's to the next 12 episodes.
7.
Well, look what we have here. Another high school rom-com sneaking its way onto this list. With Origaru, I felt very invested into the main characters, Hiki and Yukino, except that ginger-haired bitch. Fucker. Both of these characters are quite the opposite, but they do share the fact that they are both loners, on different terms. Hiki himself has a pessimistic view on life due to his past. However, he does rise to the occasion and tells it bluntly when it comes to helping people in the most effective way, regardless of how people think of him as an end result. As for Yukino, it is quite a shock how a beautiful and smart person such as herself is isolated. This is due to her cold demeanor putting people off and causing them to be envious and jealous of her perfection. But the real downfall for this anime, for me personally, was that it was too short to really dig deep into these awesome characters. Even though we got a short burst of them, I would have liked to see more.
6.
Hot chicks, check. Need I go on? Strike the Blood with its many variation of genre is pretty good for what it is so far. The action itself is more than satisfactory, with its plot revolving around Akatsuki Tojo, strongest vampire as well as the fourth primogenitor. This does invite a lot of sorcery, magicians, and supernatural elements to the show, which I frankly adore, as I feel we don't get enough of that throughout the year of these anime seasons. Also, seeing Akatsuki Tojo sucking blood is a generic factor which I feel a lot of vampire series often leave out, so it's good to see that crawl its way into the series.
5.
Noragami for sure was thought to be one of those generic harem ecchi series that wouldn't offer anything new nor innovative to this genre. However, this show did indeed keep to that, but as for the execution, that was another story in its own. The show being restricted to a measly 10 episodes like Bloodlad repelled me to try it, but all in all, the main character being cursed with the ability of absolute choice where he is forced to make a split decision based on the situation at hand was downright hilarious, as all of the choices that are on offer are to basically humiliate Kaneda in front of people in public and in class, hence why he's part of the Reject 5. Then, as soon as he gets offered by God to dispel the curse, he must complete a limitless amount of absurd missions that ultimately embarrass and inevitably to engage with women within his harem circle.
4.
Now it's time for Attack on Titan, the most controversial and highly acclaimed anime of this year. Certainly created a massive impact within the anime community in itself. However, the bigger picture is that it attracted thousands of people that haven't even picked up an anime before, so I do applaud the show for that. The show's setting was an interesting premise, with normal people just like you and me defending against an army of giant naked 50 feet tall people at the ready to gobble you up for breakfast and shit you out on top of their pool of crap. God knows where they're keeping that. The emotion was heavy from start start to finish. As soon as you would develop an attachment to a character, they would be killed in the blink of an eye, and seeing Eren's fist-to-fist brawls against Titans and the epic battle scenes that Mikasa and Levi brought to the table was indeed friggin' awesome. Well, till they were off battle, the show really did drag, but nevertheless, it was a fantastic ride that has been proven to be a great gateway series to get that friend of yours that keeps taking the piss out of you for watching hentai. Even though I feel like there wasn't much competition this year, Attack on Titan really did stick out.
3.
Godlad is one of the most enjoyable series I liked this year. Despite the questionable length it was on air for, the time I had spent with Godlad was indeed a blast. The short battles with an exchange of short intensive blows with dark humor on the side really made this series such a memorable and fun series to enjoy at that. Seeing the main lead Staz with his unique personality as a hybrid lethargic otaku vampire that can do anything he sets his mind to is pretty cool, alongside the variations of demons and creatures within the demon world, which invites more laughs and interest. And a quick fun fact here, this show is in fact a seinen and not a shonen. What a turnaround.
2.
Sunday Without God is a Madhouse series that was executed beautifully. Despite the fiasco with the large drop rate bang at the start, the show had an interesting premise with people over the world not being able to pass on, therefore giving importance to gravekeepers like our very own cute main protagonist Ai to help people pass on in the world that God has abandoned. Bet you didn't see that coming, did you? It was intriguing seeing different surreal towns that have their own rules, making each place Ai and her companions visit a different world than a separate town. Very much like Kino's Journey, Sunday Without God has the same feel. The show for me, however, surpasses Kino's Journey with its drama and suspense we get from characters we gradually develop an attachment towards, which can tug on your heartstrings from time to time, especially episode 3. Make sure you have a box of tissues right by your side.
1.
Yaomishi Pedal took me by surprise. After only having seen Kuroko's Basketball as my only sports series, this show overwhelmed me with how they made something so simplistic as competitive bike racing such an intense and jaw-dropping sport to look at and admire. The main protagonist, Onoda, is a shy, timid, lonely otaku, which really reeled me in personally as he was a relatable protagonist, which is why you can't help but root for the guy when you want him to succeed in what he sets out to achieve in each race. Then comes the execution of how the races themselves are presented, as it's hard to imagine the exhilaration you get from the speed of a bike in comparison to a car or motorcycle. Therefore, the show entices you with things like showing the animation of the wind going past the cyclists to emphasize the speed and thrill there is when you are battling the gust of the wind, and the speed you are trying to exceed at to overtake anyone that poses a threat in taking your place. As you can see, my preference really goes to the full anime of this year as the best season. So I'll leave you with a question. What was your favorite anime of this year? If you can't be asked to answer that, then what was your most memorable moment this year in anime 2013? I look forward to seeing your responses, and so I wish you all the best with what's to come for everyone for 2014. See you all next year.